I should be recording, so I've just pressed the record button on Zoom. 7 changes to teaching are just some real important strategies that I'd love for the teaching community to reflect on and to share in relation to what we could expect in the next 10 years. Now, as much as I would love to say it, I am a medium or psychic or can predict the future. I do have a great awareness and sense of what is happening in the education world and what we can potentially look out for and prepare for. And the teachers that are a part of this community and are jumping online for webinars like this, I know are passionate about making a difference and being ahead of the curve or ready for these changes. Because things like COVID-19 shouldn't be the stimulus or shouldn't be the thing that makes us go into a new way of teaching. But education is notoriously behind, and especially in Australia as well. It's not uncommon knowledge that we are far behind the pace of the rest of the world in terms of how they're educating and the ways that they are changing lives. And if you look at countries in Scandinavia, Japan, a lot of these countries are very much already using technology. They're integrating it in a healthy and a conscious way, where I think Australia, our problem here, or the challenge that we have, is we're taking so many different approaches. Hi Raquel, thank you for joining us. Please let me know in the chat where you're joining us from, Raquel. It's a beautiful name, Raquel Ferreira. Thank you for being on the live. But yeah, all over the world, education is changing in different ways. And what I really think and what I would love to see happen is more of a global approach where it's not country by country, it's not even state by state, but it really is a global approach to education. Because when we approach it from a global sense, we really, really do create big change in the world, and we rise up in consciousness, we create transformation, and we serve the students, which is ultimately what education is about. It's not about setting them up for, careers anymore. It's not about that. It's about setting them up for life and about getting them prepared for life after school, where they can actually have an impact in the world and serve. So what does that look like? I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you through a couple of things to help you think. Christina, thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure to be on the live with teachers, and we've got teachers all over the world tonight, which makes me very happy. I'm in the southwest of Australia. It's a little bit chilly at the moment, and according to my housemate, I need to just deal with it a little bit better. But in all honesty, winter, it's here. And this is a great time for creating and planting seeds for what's coming in spring. So especially in the southern hemisphere, we've got winter. Northern hemisphere, you have got summer coming, which is even fantastic for you. But let's get into some better things tonight. We're talking about change in education. Okie dokie. All right, so 7 changes to teaching. And this is teaching the teacher, and this is also the student. So this is how your life might need to change. Hello, it's always good to have my mum on the live. She is joining us on Instagram. Hi mum, itchy top lip. But you can't see the slides, mum. I've really got to help you get onto Zoom eventually so you can actually see the slides. But 7 changes to teaching. 7 things that we can look at, and 7 things that have been released in terms of research, in terms of government bodies, organisations and educational experts, of where we might want to direct our attention or focus in the coming period of our lives as educators. This is me. If you don't know me, this is the first time on the webinar, please scribble down some of that information, or if you're watching the replay, please take a photo and connect, because we are adapting, expanding and growing what we're doing. And as you can see in this photo, these are the beautiful teachers that joined me on our last retreat in Bali, Indonesia, where we went deep into caring for ourselves, what it really means to be a teacher. And importantly, like we're talking about, these women all went through incredible change and transformation and become better versions of themselves. And just like every teacher out there, you are aspiring. Hello, Teaching with Penguins. Thank you for joining us on Instagram. I am live on a webinar in Zoom as well. I'm doing both. But at the moment, I'm talking about our ability to change and adapt and pivot. In the last 3 months, 90-day period, autumn in the Southern Hemisphere, spring in the Northern Hemisphere, has been a radical transformation to the way we educate. But this is just the beginning, I believe, and I trust and I have faith that the education system is going to rapidly change for the better in the next few years. Raquel is joining us from New South Wales. Pleasure to be on here with you, Raquel. So how is it changing? Well, it starts by changing with the teacher first. Teachers are changing, and teachers are becoming more aware of global problems. They're becoming more informed with their decision making, and they're becoming more independent and interdependent on how they impact education. So here are a few strategies or prompts or things I'd like you to think about. The first thing, okay, I love GIFs, and I'm just going to turn my Instagram camera around so you can see. But the first thing that I would like you to reflect on and share right now is what made you smile today. What is something that made you smile today? You can share it on Instagram in the chat. You can share it on Zoom in the chat. But what's something that made you smile today? For me, I love GIFs. And if I just need to have a little laugh, I'll find a GIF like this. And what you'll see here is a toddler, maybe a 2-year-old, mimicking his best friend, his dog. And what this shows is really simply the most fundamental way for learning to occur, and that is learning by doing, learning by seeing, learning by being there and experiencing it, kinesthetic learning. And this is something that I'm scared we're going to lose from education if we go too much online. But what made you smile today? I'd love you to share. For me, lots made me smile today. My housemate, my buddy returned from FIFO, so it's good to have some company around. I caught up with some family. Caitlin posting my year one's beautiful pen pal letters to my mum's year one class. Oh, that is so beautiful. They worked so hard on them, so putting them in the mailbox was the best. Can't wait to see their faces light up when they get replies. That will be something beautiful for the eye to behold and the heart to feel. Caitlin, I love it. And she loves the gift because she's a dog person. My dog got the all clear from a cancer test. That is amazing. And Caitlin, go your dog. I'm sure his or her is going to be fine regardless. And Caitlin, if your mum's also a teacher, as we spoke about, she's more than welcome to, maybe she'll cramp your style, but she's more than welcome to join you on our retreat. We do have villas where you can share your own villa with your mother, but that is totally up to you. And his name is Nitro. Great name for a dog. Love that. Moving on. So we've got lots of things that made us smile today. Now I really, really want you to check in. What do you think needs to change? I'd love you to share. Anyone watching on Instagram, in education, what do you think needs to change? On Zoom, what needs to change? Please share. We've got 7 people here on the Zoom webinar. I should have 7 responses, because if we're all passionate educators committed to making a big difference, we should have some reasons to change. What needs to change in the education system, sector, schools, kids, teachers, parents? What needs to change? I would love for you to share while I just take a breather. Got some responses coming through here. Teaching with penguins, we need to focus on the child, not the latest trend. Boom, I absolutely love that. We do need to focus on the child. We need to not just focus on the child, we need to start to educate the human being. How do you be a happy, healthy, abundant, prosperous human being that makes a difference in the world? We've got Caitlin sharing less pressure and demands on teachers. Tick, tick, tick. We work so hard and love our jobs, but sometimes we are pushed too far and spread too thin. Absolutely. I started Smile Teachers because I was sick of this. I was sick of being tired and burnt out and exhausted, suffering from a mental illness. And at the end of the day, even though I was changing student lives, I wasn't being rewarded for this financially. I wasn't being rewarded by my staff with recognition. I wasn't being given appreciation or gratitude. And that ends up taking its toll on you. Raquel, more collaborative work to share and learn from each other. This is all what we're all sharing here. PJ has said relationships with fellow staff. This is all to do with relationships. And now what I'm about to go into with 7 changes to education, these are things I just want you to be aware of, and I want you to really reflect on how they're going to impact education and how they're going to impact human beings. Because we're talking about the latest trend as teaching with penguins, and I'm sorry, if you'd like to share your name, I'd love to know your name. As we shared, it's not about the latest trend, and this is a big problem in especially Australia and America and the UK, where our education system is so big and spread out, is that one person sees something amazing and they're like, oh, let's do that. And then another state's like, oh, let's do something else and we'll do that. And then even in Australia, between our 7 states, each state has got their own different sort of approach to the way they educate. Rather than, like I said at the start, a global approach where we are serving the human being and making sure our human beings are happy, healthy, abundant, prosperous, and able to make a difference. So we really do need to have a collaborative approach, and that comes from, creating change within ourselves, so then we can create change within each other. So the first thing, as I said, is technology. Me being able to do this webinar with people in, I've got people in Belgium, people in America, people in Australia, people in 7 different states in Australia. Technology is allowing that to happen, and that is a gift, and that is something to be grateful for. But the way technology is impacting our kids is something we really need to be conscious of. And as you can see here, the phones, it's like they're handcuffed. And I was just talking to my buddy Zim here about his father-in-law who's 70, and he is very addicted and stuck to the device. I've got students that I work with who are very addicted and stuck to the device. And this is really breaking this connection. It's not actually making us connected, it's making us disconnected, because it's not in a healthy and conscious way. So technology we need to be very conscious of. Albert Einstein had this quote, and that was a very long time ago. That was before my time, and probably before your time, and probably before a lot of other people's time. But he said that he fears the day when technology overlaps with humanity. The world will only have a generation of idiots. And that is what I believe we are breeding if we're not conscious of this. If we let technology start to become too much of a tool where it is laziness, where we're using it to cut corners, where we're using it to take away jobs, then what's going to happen is we're going to have people that don't think. They are robotic. We're going to have students that don't think and become robotic. And that's not good for anybody. I myself have probably been spending a little too much time on the technology lately, and I've got soreness in my jaw, TMJ they call it. And to me, that's not healthy. To me, that's finding a balance. And so tomorrow, I booked in a day to basically work on me, get a massage, go to the chiro, going to a cacao ceremony tomorrow night, because that's what I need to do to make sure this doesn't become a bigger problem, and that I start to lose track of my own change in a healthy way. Artificial intelligence. Scary stuff. The Matrix movie years ago, very long time ago. Now it's basically coming true. And artificial intelligence does have its place, but they're talking about it potentially becoming a tool for educating our kids. Now, I don't agree with this. And I really think that children need the human-to-human connection, person to person. Touch is such a big thing. And we know that being consciously connected to other human beings, whether it's a hug, whether it's a high five, whether it's just being in the vicinity of another human, significantly changes our relationship with the world around us. Now, if we're talking to a robot or a fake human being, we don't have that. And that leads to a lot of problems when it comes to connection, loneliness, and understanding emotions, which is big for our kids. So artificial intelligence, we need to be prepared for it, but we need to be conscious of it. Is it serving our education system, or is it taking something away that is of value? So I believe the human connection factor, we're losing that. Okay, we're probably creating more accessibility. And what artificial intelligence is based on, when you look at all these numbers on the screen, it's all based on maths. It's all data. So it's all data driven. And if anything, our education system is too data driven. New word, driven. Can we put that in the dictionary? I'd love to go back through all my Zooms and look at the words that I've made up. But AI, artificial intelligence, facial recognition, our faces are everywhere. Like, if somebody wants to steal my identity and cross the border, it's going to be easy because my face is everywhere. Our faces are everywhere. But we need to be conscious of the way that we're using AI in education, because we don't want to take away the human element, because it's going to create a lot of problems. PJ, here, too right about that. Alas, we are becoming separated from each other, especially with modern technology. Exactly. And if anything, even though COVID-19 was an opportunity to spend time at home and connect and look after ourselves, it created a massive disconnect because everybody's looking for that connection through social media. And we know that the research out there proves it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't equal the same thing as being around other human beings. Forever, human evolution, we've been in tribes, we've been in groups, we've been in sharing circles, we've been dancing around the fire, we've been hunting and gathering. Do you know in Indonesia, this is just a fun fact for you, in Indonesia, with a baby, a newborn, 6 months, the baby does not touch the floor. They do not let that baby onto the ground for the first 6 months. It stays connected to a human constantly, whether that's mother, father, brother, sister, grandmother, uncle. That baby stays connected to the human being for 6 months of its existence. Like, these ancient cultures know this. But what's happening is, as technology is becoming so rapid, things are becoming easier, it's all becoming more accessible. We're losing that from a lot of cultures. And it's really, really sad. We don't want to lose that from education. Online schooling. We all just became online teachers overnight. Like, literally click your fingers, we all went online. It was magical. You all did so well. But is this the way of the future? I'll be a part of a webinar tomorrow where an institute that I've been involved in for quite a while, Entrepreneurs Institute, or Genius U, with over 1 million users on the platform, have created a brand new online schooling platform for kids focused on their genius, which I'll talk about in a minute. But is online schooling the way? Again, it is more accessible for students. It's more accessible for teachers. It probably reduces travel to school, probably reduces time. There are a lot of benefits with online schooling. And I love that Angie has said it wasn't equitable for my students, and sent home paper kits and made phone calls. This is where I am pro online schooling, but I'm pro human connection. I believe it needs to be an integrated approach. Okay, I believe that we could even potentially have, 2 days a week schooling is online, 2 days a week schooling is with the teacher. 1 day a week is all about collaborative learning, working together in teams, little projects, sports, games, connection. That, in an ideal world, would be fantastic if you ask me. It should be like a mini retreat for kids where there's yoga, meditation, breath work, there's schoolwork, there's online learning, because ultimately, in this day and age, with technology, if we use it to our advantage, kids can self-direct a lot of their learning. But the simple things like reading, writing, we should be getting kids to do that in books, written down, because that is so important. And there's nothing more magical than writing with a pen or coloring with a pencil. So we need, I believe, a blended approach. Now, Genius School is what I talked about. This is something very fascinating. And if you're not familiar with Genius School, I advise you to check out the Smile Teachers Facebook page or my private Facebook page, Sean Kay, where we talk about Genius School. And tomorrow there's a webinar where we're talking about the brand new launch of Genius School online. What this is that every human being, we all have a different genius. And this is like that quote, and I'm sure they'll share it on the webinar, where they talk about you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. And it's so true for our genius. So my genius is I'm a star profile. And what that means is I'm very creative and I'm very supportive. And I've got lots of good strengths and skills around that. But I'm not a lord. And a lord is very mathematical, very systemized, very step by step, not my flow, not my strength. But what it shows, if I stay in my genius, I'll find things easy, I'll enjoy it, I'll get a lot out of it, and most importantly, I'll be happy and healthy doing it. But to really have a big impact, I need to partner with a lord who's got those other skills that I lack. And I also need to partner with a deal maker who is good at timekeeping and planning and keeping a grip on everything. So me, the creator, I could just go and create all day, but are we actually moving towards our goal? Well, that's the deal maker that makes sure we are moving towards our goal. And the Lord is the person that is counting the numbers and making sure step by step, play by play, it's all coming together. That is genius. And what Genius School is about is educating kids in their genius. And it's like, I love the metaphor or the analogy, you can't fit a square peg in a round hole. That's what happens for a lot of kids in school. We're trying to fit square pegs in round holes, when instead we should be just keeping them in their genius and really playing to their strengths. I love Genius School, if you can't tell. Mental illness. It is, what do I need to say? It's all based around fear. Devices are making it worse. And the number one thing that, and this is an interesting statistic, the biggest demographic of people that are affected by mental illness, especially in Australia at the moment, are university students. Now, why is that? Because they've grown up without the resilience, without the strategies. They've gone through our education system that is behind where we need to be. We haven't prepared them for real life. They've been on their phones, they've been on social media, they've been in this, world of influencers and Instagram and followers and all this stuff. And they get to university, life hits them in the face and they can't cope, and they get anxiety and depression and mental illness. So being really prepared to support our students from an early age all the way through to have healthy conversations about mental illness, to understand and be able to identify and regulate emotions, which is the work I do in schools, is all very important, because it usually 99% of the time, it all comes back to fear. And if you can understand those fears, fear of not belonging, fear of not being enough, fear of not being recognized, if we can get back to the fear that is underlying the mental illness, we can create positive changes and we can move that student back up the system or the guidance system and get them to move from desperation to frustration, from frustration to anger, from anger to calmness, from calmness. We can slowly start to get them moving through that emotional system. We ultimately help them move away from fear and towards love. And that is our mission as teachers, is to have kids feeling love rather than fear. And that comes from this piece around, if we're changing at the rapid rate that we need to be, then we are upgrading the way that we approach emotional intelligence. Because growth mindset, guys, that was 5 to 10 years ago. And this is a perfect example of education. We're still flogging the growth mindset horse, when now we've realized, and many schools have moved away from it, thankfully, that it was created for organizations like IBM, Google, Microsoft, with big teams and leadership roles and hierarchies and all of this. It wasn't created for schools. So being really conscious of how we are setting our kids up to be mentally well, okay, rather than competitive, is that little step. And those of you that are on Instagram, you can't see the slides. Informed decision making. Again, this is really important, is allowing and enabling students to make informed decisions about big life choices. Imagine leading a session, and maybe if you're at a religious school, you've run a lesson like this, but when the kids ever ponder, life and death, big question, but they should be looking at this. Do your children ever learn about a spiritual practice? If they're at a religious school, potentially. If they're not, maybe never. But we should be educating kids so that they can make informed decisions rather than just doing as they're told as they go through life. They get to university, nobody's telling them what to do, and they all of a sudden drop their bundle. And I had to finish with this. Do you think it's ever going to change? Teachers' salary? It should change. It really, really should change. And I think, and I believe, and I trust that one day it will. It honestly makes me upset sometimes because you guys are the most influential people on the planet. You are the ones that are crafting our future generations. And it is frustrating that people can sit in government and call the shots, never having walked in a classroom, and can be paid double to triple your salary. But I think now, as we are waking up, as we're rising and we're becoming more conscious and we're questioning things and whatnot, it will eventually change and the world will realize the importance of teachers again, just like it did forever ago when teachers and masters were highly noble and sought out and respected people. And I wish that for all of you. So what now? George Couros, great quote. Technology will not replace teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. And that is why I urge you to be conscious of how you're using technology in the classroom, in the school, at home. Be very conscious of how you're using it because it is going to change our teaching world. And I want you to change with it, not against it. And I even want you to be ahead of the curve. So what's your one thing? People that have tuned in, watched live tonight, what's one thing you're going to take away to remember to think about or potentially action or keep at the forefront of your mind as you teach? What is one thing that you're going to walk away with tonight? Mine is to get a massage tomorrow on my jaw. What's your one thing? What's your one thing? Could be a good little song to do here. What's your one thing? With the aerobics. Bring back aerobics. That'd be a great thing. Caitlin Roper, leave work earlier tomorrow. Fantastic. Did I teach you that tonight, Caitlin, or is that something you met or came across in a previous presentation? But what's your one thing from tonight's webinar? Caitlin's got leave work early tomorrow, which is a big tick in my book. It's something I've been trying to do ever since the amazing Ed Summit on the holidays. Yeah, you loved the Ed Summit. I loved the Ed Summit as well. It was a great time. Okay, if you haven't signed up for the Smile course, there's the information. You get free 5 videos to help you prepare and get onto some things that are going to help you to live well and be a great teacher. And lastly, if you're in Western Australia, you're watching the replay, we are having our own teachers retreat. And for those teachers in Belgium and America, we're having one in Bali. Once we have the borders open and we can fly, we'll be having so this will be our 4th retreat happening in Western Australia. And then our 5th retreat will be in Bali or Noosa in Queensland. But during Western Australia, go and find out more. If you're not in Western Australia, go and find out more as well about our retreats. And I'd love to see you there. Thank you for tuning in, Instagram. Goodbye. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom webinar. My pleasure. I hope you've had a wonderful evening and a great day. Beautiful. Much love. That is all from me.